Begin today the Gemara on Daf Samach Daled Amud Beis, 4 lines before the end of the Yomud. It said in the Mishnah, Amar Rabbi Yosi loy pasak se'oirin. So the lashon of the Mishnah was that you have to give the wife for the week to eat. You have to give her barley. So Rabbi Yosi said that Rabbi Shmuel is the only one that gave this amount of se'oirim that the Mishnah says over here. He was close to Edom, so he gave her the barley. So the Gemara asks on this, Elo be'edom hu da'achlin se'oirim. So was the Mishnah indicating that only Rabbi Shmuel gave for his wife barley because he was near Edom? That means that near Edom they eat barley, but kul almu le'achli. Otherwise, in different places in the world, people don't eat barley. That's not true. All the people eat barley all over. And for the Gemara, hachika amar. This is what the Mishnah means to say. Loy pasak sa'oirim kiflayim bechitin. Who's the one that gave double amount of barley than the amount of wheat? El Rabbi Shmuel. That was only Rabbi Shmuel. Shahaya samach le'edom, because he lived in the area of Edom. Mipnei shesa'oirin adomius rois hein. The quality of the barley of Edom are bad quality, so therefore you have to give double. But in other places, the quality of the barley is better, so you don't have to give double.
Where's Edom?
It's somewhere around there. It's outside, yeah. The nois and lachatzi kav kitnis. Then the Mishnah says you give her also a half a kav of beans. Okay, so what do you have for food over here? You have barley, you have the wheat, barley, and beans. So the Gemara, v'ilu yayin like a tani. The Mishnah doesn't talk about giving wine for the wife. This is proving what Rabbi Lazar said. Rabbi Lazar, ein paiskin yainis leisha, that you do not have to give wine for the wife. And Rashi says, and we'll see this later, this is the basis of the whole sugya we're going to be speaking about over here. The whole sugya is going to talk about yet to give wine for the wife, not to give wine for the wife. So Rashi says, because if you give her too much wine, it's margila l'tayvus tashmish. So the Gemara says you don't give wine for the wife. V'im taimar, and if you're going to argue and say there's a pasuk where it talks about a woman saying, Elcha achrei ma'avai noisne lachmi meimi tzamri pishti shamni v'shikoyai, that she says, let me go to the one that loves me, gives me bread, water, wool, flax, oil, and then v'shikoyai. Shikoyai means to drink. What does drink refer to? Wine. So the Gemara answers, no, that's not the pshat of the word shikoyai. Dvarim, rather what it means is, dvarim sheisha mishtekekes alein. It means those things that a woman desires. And ma'ininu, what are they? Tachshitin, jewelry, but not wine. Darish Rav Yehuda ish kfar niviria, v'amrila ish kfar nefoir chayal. This village from another village. So he said, what's the source that you don't give wine for a woman? The husband doesn't have to give her wine. Shenai, the pasuk says by Chana, Batokam Chana achrei ochla b'shiloi. Chana got up after she ate in Shiloi, va'achrei shasoi. So it's read shasoi with a chaylim, which is lashon zachar. Shasoi that is, v'loi shasis. If it would be lashon nekeva, it would say shasis, that she drank, but it says shasoi, that he drank. Now, but she didn't drink. So from here you see that she ate, but the wine she didn't drink. Ela mayata, says the Gemara, if you've been with Daik in this pasuk, lashon zachar, lashon nekeva, so if so, ochla, v'loi achal, the fact that it says that she ate, does that mean that she ate, but he didn't eat, her husband or the man that was with her did not eat? So hachanami, are you going to say the same thing, the same diuk? Says the Gemara, no. We're not going to be medayik that, because anan midishani kra b'diburekam. The only reason we're being medayik, the term of shasoi, that means that he ate, is because the pasuk is changing its expression here. Machdi, let's see, begavakas, the Gemara, the pasuk that is talking about chana. Vasi, that's what the whole discussion is in the pasuk. My time is shani. Why does it change the expression and say shasoi lashon zachar? Shmamina shasoi v'loy shasas. So that shows you that he drank, but she does not drink any wine. The wine is not for a woman. Meisvei, the Gemara asks from a Braisa, it says, Regila, a woman that's accustomed to drinking wine, nice in law, we have to give her also the wine to drink. The husband has to also give her wine. So answers the Gemara, Regila, Shani. If she's accustomed to drinking wine, so since this is not something which is novel to her, so it's not going to affect her badly. She's accustomed to this, so she's not going to get out of hand. Said in the name of Shmuel, Regila, a woman that's accustomed to drinking wine, we give her 1 cup of wine. She'ena Regila, if she's not accustomed to drinking wine, we give her 2 cups of wine. Now, so the Gemara right away asks, what does that mean? If she's not accustomed to drinking, we give her 2 cups. My kama, what does he mean to say? Amar Abaye, so Abaye explains, this is how you have to read what Shmuel said. Regila b'fnei baila, if she's accustomed in front of her husband to drink. Regila, So yeah, b'fnei baila, in front of her husband, shnei kaisis, you can give her even 2 cups of wine. Because in front of her husband will make sure that she shouldn't get out of hand. So you can give her even 2 cups. Shaloi b'fnei baila, but if it's not in front of her husband, neisin la kais echad, you can give her 1 cup of wine. Eina regila, but if she's not accustomed to drinking wine, b'fnei baila ela kais echad. So in front of her husband, you only give her 1 cup of wine. Shalai b'fnei baila, but if she's not in the presence of her husband, ein neisin la kolik, you don't give her wine at all. Or another pshat over here, what this means, that even if she's not accustomed to drinking wine, we give her wine, that regila, to explain how much you give, regila neisin la letzike kedera. Even if she's accustomed to drinking wine, you also have to give her additional wine, 2 cups. You have to give her also for what she needs for the tzike kedera, to flavor the food. She uses to add wine into the food. Rabava said in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Ma'aseh b'kaloseh shel Nakdim ben Gurion. It was the story with the daughter-in-law of Nakdim ben Gurion. Nakdim ben Gurion was a very wealthy fellow. So she had a big house with a lot of guests and a lot of people. So shepaskel hachachamim sasayim yayin letzike kedera. The Chachamim designated that you have to give her 2 saw of wine, with a tremendous amount of wine. And the wine was being used with Tzike Kedera just to flavor the food. So she had so much food that she was preparing and serving in her home that this is the amount of wine that she needed. Me'erev l'Shabbos, Le'erev Shabbos, for the week, from one Shabbos to the next. She said to the Chachamim, Kach tifsuku l'bnei seichem. I bench you that you should also have so much wealth and so many people that you should also give for your daughters this amount of wine. Tana, and a brayso we learned about the story, Shemeres Yavam Haisa. She was a Shemeres Yavam. Her husband had passed away. She was waiting for Yibum from the brother. And that's when they said that the brother has to, the Yavam has to give her this amount of wine. So therefore they didn't answer Amen to her bracha because, she took out a lot of wealth, but her husband had passed away and she was in an unfortunate situation, so they didn't answer Amen that we should be like you. Tana, and a brayso we learned, Kais echad, 1 cup of wine, Yafalisha. That's nice. That's good for a woman. Shnayim, but 2 cups of wine, nivulhu. It's disgusting or it's repulsive.
Disgrace.
It's a disgrace for a woman. Shloisha, if you give her 3 cups of wine, tivas bepeh. So then she will clearly demand. She will demand the marital relations. But if you give her 4 cups of wine, afila chamoyer tivas b'shuk ve'ena makpedes. Even a donkey that would demand of her to cohabit in the street, she'll not be particular about it. She gets drunk, intoxicated, and therefore it's not good for her. Omar Rava said, Loishanu, this is all only said, Ela she'ein ba'ila ima, if the husband is not with her. Avu ba'ila ima, but if her husband is with her, less lamba, it doesn't matter how much wine you give her, because the husband will take care of her. Frek the Gemara, but we brought before the pasuk, the source of from where we saw that you don't give a wife wine, and that was by Chana, v'chana the ba'ila ima. Over there by Chana, it's speaking about the case where her husband was with her, and nevertheless it says that he drank wine and she did not drink wine. So again, Chana the Baile Ima Havoy. And it says the Gemara, Achsanoi Shani. Over there, because they were guests, they were on the way, so therefore, because they're guests, so therefore over there, even when your husband is with you, you shouldn't give her wine. Ravuna said, how do I know a person that's a guest, he's not in his home, that he shouldn't have marital relations? Shanema, the pasuk says, they got up in the morning, they bowed to Hashem, they came home, back to Ramah, so then they had relations, and that's when she became pregnant. And when was this? After they came home. So hashta in, when they came home, yes, but before not. So therefore we see over here that on the way, even if your husband's with you, she should not be drinking wine. Gemara brings an interesting story, or a little bit of a sad story. Chuma the bisu da Abaya. Chuma, the wife of Abaya. Asai lekamei de Rava. She came in front of Rava after her husband Abaya passed away. Amrale, she says to Rava, Psaikli mezayni. Give me the mezainis that I need, that he should take care of the fact that she should get the mezainis from her husband's possessions, properties. Pasakla, so he gave her. Psaikli chamra, so he asks Rava, so now I also want to get wine from my husband's possessions, that I should be able to buy wine for myself. Amalei Rava says, Yedaine bebe Nachmeni. I know Nachmeni. This was Abaya's father's name, Abaya bar Nachmeni. So I know about my friend Abaya, Doleyav Shasi Chamra. He did not drink wine. Amralei, so she answered him and she said, Chaye Demar, I can swear to you in the name in your life, that he would drink in cups like this. And she was showing him, she picked up her hands to show like the size and the big cups of wine that he would drink. As she was showing this to him, Igli Dara, her arm got uncovered. Nafal Nahayra Bevedina. It says an expression that it was like light that fell into the room, meaning that her beauty was shown. And then what happened after this? Kam Rava got up, all the Beise, he came to his home. Taval Bas Rav Chiste, his wife was a daughter of Rav Chiste, so he demanded of her to have marriage relations. Amralei, his wife says to him, Amralei Bas Rav Chiste, the daughter of Rav Chiste, his wife says to him, what happened today? Man hava edna bebeidina, who was today in the bezdin that you're coming home with this? Amarla, so Rav said to her, Chuma the bisud Abaya, Chuma the wife of Abaya. So Nafke, his wife, Rav's wife went out of Basra after Chuma, the wife of Abaya, and she ran after her, Machsala bekulfi the shida, and she hit her with a lock from a chest, until she chased her out of the whole entire city of Mechuzah. Why? Amr Allah. So the wife of Rabbi said to the wife of Abaye, Katlas leich klasa. 3 of your husbands you killed. This is, we learned this in the Gemara in Yavamas, that three of your husbands have already died. And you're trying to attract my husband to get married to you, and now you're going to kill another man. So she chased her out of the whole Mechuzah. Sagt the Gemara, the bisu de Rav Yosef berei de Rava. The wife of Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, Asoi, so also after he passed away, Asoi the kameh de Rav Nechemia berei de Rav Yosef. So he came to Rav Nechemia, Amr Alei, she says to him, Soikli Mizaini, get me the Mizainis that I deserve. Pasakla, he got her the Mizainis. Pas Soikli Chamra, get me wine as well. Pasakla, he gave her wine as well. Allah, he said to her, Yadaina Bahu, Bibnei Mechuzah, I know the people of Mechuzah, the Shasu Chamra, that they drink wine, so therefore you deserve to get wine as well. Another incident, the Bisud Rav Yosef, Berei de Rav Menashe Midvil. So the wife that is, of Rav Yosef, after he passed away, Asoi Lakameh de Rav Yosef, came to Rav Yosef, Amalei said to Rav Yosef, Pseikli Mizaini, get me my Mizainis, Pasakla, he got her Mizainis, Pseikli Chamra, get me wine, Pasakla, he got her as well. And then she asked for more. She saw her luck is working, so she asked Pseikli Shiroi, get me also nice, good silk garments. Amrallah, he said to her, Shiroi Lama, what do you need such expensive clothing for? Amrallah, she says to him, Lach, for your sake, Elachavrach, and for your friends, Elachavrurech, which some say means your friends' friends, meaning that I should walk out and I shouldn't be embarrassed, but I should walk out with the proper honor that I'm accustomed to. So therefore I deserve these garments as well. So it said in the Mishnah regarding what a husband has to give for the wife, he has to give her a bed. Besides the bed, he has to give her 2 mats, it said. A soft mat, that's what a mapatz is. Then it said also a machzeles, which is a harder mat that's made from straw. Frek the Gemara, mapatz or machzeles lamala. Why does she need these mats as well? Lamala diyavla. Why does the husband have to give this to her? So in those times, the beds, they had like a hide of an animal that was spread out on a bed, and that was the bed that they lied on. Not like today, you have a box spring, and then on that you have a mattress. But it was the hide of the animal itself that was comfortable to lie on. So why does she additionally need these mats? So Rav Papa says, what the Mishnah is speaking about over here is Ba'asre de Nihigi de Molopuri B'chavli. That this is a place where the beds, instead of putting out this hide of an animal that you can lie on, but they would put these ropes spread out on top of the bed, and then on that they would put a mat, the mivgar law. So therefore, that's something that would be it would be mitzayir her, would be painful for her. She can't lie on the bed without having a mattress or without having a mat. Tana Rabbanon and Abayis, we learned ein noisen la karve kesses. We don't give her a pillow, a blanket. Mishum Rav Nasan Amru, Rav Nasan said, noisen la. We do give her karve kesses, a pillow and a blanket. Hey chidami. So the question is, what is this talking about? Idorcha, if she's accustomed to this. So my time with the Tanakama, why does the Tanakama say we don't give this to her? Vidala vorcha, if she's not accustomed to having a pillow and blanket. So my time with the Rav Nasan. So why does Rav Nasan say that we would not give her? That we do give her, that is. Answers the Gemara, loy tzrichet. What the case over here is, kagoyim the orchei didei. The husband is the one that needs the pillow and the blanket. But v'lav orchei dida, she does not need a pillow and blanket. So what are we speaking about over here? Just again, going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah is speaking about a husband that's not with his wife all week, and he has someone that's providing for his wife, and he comes back home Friday night, he comes back home for Shabbos. So now Tanakama's opinion is, Omar Law, the husband says to her, you don't need a pillow and blanket. Kia zilna, shakilna lahu. When I leave, I take my pillow and blanket that I use for my bed with me. V'chia sina, and when I'll come back, my sina lahu ba'adoi, I will bring the pillow and blanket with me. So therefore it's for me, so you don't need it, so you're fine. Rab Nassan says, no, that she could argue and say, Omrale, she says to him, Zimnim de Misrami ben Ashmoshes, sometimes you come very late, right before Shabbos, Friday night, and you're not going to be able to bring your own pillow and blanket, and then what's going to be? You're going to take away the mat of my bed. And then, I'm going to have to sleep on the floor. I'm not going to be able to sleep on my bed. So therefore, even though the pillow and blanket is for you, but you need to leave here a pillow and blanket. So then, even if you come late, spare one, right? So you should have it. You should have it even for yourself. It said in the Mishnah, he gives her a covering, a head covering. What did it say there in the Mishnah? That you give the clothing, you give your wife clothing once a year, and it goes through the winter and the summer. But then the Mishnah says shoes you have to give her for every Yom Tov. Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot, you have to give her new shoes. Frek the Gemara, it's a strange thing. Clothing once a year and shoes 3 times a year. Hi Tane, this Tane here, Shliach Artaloi. The shliach over here, the word shliach means remove the clothing. Artaloi, she remains undressed. In other words, she only has clothing once a year, so she's not going to necessarily have this to last all year. But veromi misani. But at the same time, she's wearing shoes because she gets shoes 3 times a year. What's the reason for this? Amalei, so he answered him, Tane b'mokim harim koi. This Tane, speaking about in a place in the mountains where you need new shoes very often because you're walking on rocks and pebbles. She can't walk around without getting new pairs of shoes 3 times a year. And then the Tana teaches also about the times when you should give the shoes for your wife. So it tells you, give it to her in the time of a Yom Tiv. So in order that this should be her Simchas Yom Tiv, getting a new pair of shoes. Right, this is B'chlal the halacha that it says when you get to the fact that a husband is supposed to bring simcha to his wife for Yom Tiv, that he should buy jewelry or garments. Over here, the Mishnah says, if you can't get that, at least get her a new pair of shoes for Yom Tiv. The Gemara, it said in the Mishnah, the Kelim shel chamishim zuz. You get her clothing, and what's the value of this clothing? 50 zuz. Amar Abaye says, Abaye chamishim zuzi pshiti. The Mishnah said 50 zuz. It doesn't mean 50 zuz. It means 50 of lower coins. Of Rashi says pshiti means zuzi medina, which is really 1/8 of what the zuzim are. In other words, really we're talking about clothing that the value is much less. And the Gemara explains how we know this. Because later the Mishnah says, all these amounts, the minimum amounts we said in the Mishnah is for a person that's poor. A person that's honorable and he's rich, he has to give his wife much more according to his level, his status, his honor. If you're going to say the zuz in the Mishnah means literally zuz, which is an expensive coin, so ani chamishim zuz minole. The Mishnah is speaking about the minimum amounts for a poor person. A poor person has money for clothing, such expensive clothing for his wife. Elosh ma'amina. So the pshat of the Mishnah is chamishim zuzi pshiti. It's the zuzi pshiti, which is 1/8 of a regular zuz. Then the Mishnah says that you don't give new clothing in the summer. You should give her in the winter new clothing, and then the worn out clothing she wears in the summer. So the Gemara says now b'chlal regarding this clothing that she wears, and after a year it gets worn out. So Tan Rabbanan, if there's the food that a person was giving for his wife and there's leftover from this food, who gets the leftovers? Labal goes back to the husband. Meiser balois, the leftovers of the worn out clothing, liisha, she gets to keep that. So the Gemara asks, Meiser balois liisha lama, the worn out clothing that she's not going to be wearing anymore, so she gets to keep it. So what is she keeping this for? Rachba says, when she's a nida, she doesn't want to wear the same clothing that she wears when she's tahir for her husband. So she wears these clothing that are worn out. So she shouldn't be disgusting in the eyes of her husband in the days when she's not a nida. When she's tahir, she dresses with regular clothing. When she's a nida, she dresses with different clothing. So the husband shouldn't look at her all the time as the same, that it's a nida. And she's not. And when she's tahir, she's tahir. Amar Abaya said, Naktinon, we know the halacha is, Meiser balois almana, the leftovers, the worn out clothing of an almana that also has to get clothing, Liyarshav goes to the children that inherit the father. They get the worn out clothing. And what's the reason? The reason why she gets the worn out clothing is to wear it in the time that she's a nida. So there'll be a difference when she's tired or when she's a nida, the way her husband views her. But Tisgani over here, the fact that she's wearing the regular clothing, whether she is a nida, whether she's not a nida, doesn't make a difference. So therefore, the worn out clothing will go to the Yarshim, to the children. Said in the Mishnah, and then the Mishnah continued and said that Eicheles was lashon of the Mishnah. Just a moment. Vaycheles imai, she eats with her husband milele Shabbos to leile Shabbos, from Friday night to Friday night. Right? We're talking about a provider that's giving her, and the husband's not with her all week. Friday night, the husband eats with her.
Mas for dinner.
So the Gemara says, "My Eicheles." What is Eicheles? Rav Nachman Amar Eicheles Mamish. Rav Nachman says Eicheles means literally that she eats with him. Rav Ashi Amar Tashmish. Rav Ashi says Eicheles means the marital relations. So the Gemara says, Tanan, and the Mishnah says, Eicheles imay leile Shabbos, that she eats with him Friday night. So Eicheles means to eat. Bishleim lamanda machile. According to the opinion, it says that she eats with him. Haim diktani Eicheles. So the Mishnah says she eats with him. El lamanda matashmish, the opinion that says that it refers to marital relations. So the question is, the Bach Atzi and the Gemara, Amai nokat Eicheles. Why does the Mishnah use such an expression of Eicheles that she eats with him? Answers the Gemara, Lishna Ma'alya, it's using a nicer language, Kedechsiv, as we could see in the Pasuk as well. It says, Ochla, she ate, Umachsa Pia, she wipes her mouth, Va'amra, and she says, Le Palti Yavan, I did nothing wrong. And in that Pasuk, the expression of Ochla means marital relations. Meisvei, the Gemara asks, there's a Braisa where it says, Rab Shimon Gamliel Leime. Rab Shimon Gamliel argues and says, Eicheles Beleile Shabbos, she eats with her husband the night of Shabbos, Vish Shabbos, and Shabbos day as well. So now, Bishlam Lamanda Machile, opinion that says that it refers to eating with the husband. Haina diktani v'Shabbos. So she eats with her husband Friday night and Shabbos day. Tashmish, but the opinion that says that it refers to marital relations. Tashmish b'Shabbos miyikib, by daytime. Is a woman having marital relations with her husband? Is that allowed? V'hamer Rav Huna said Yisrael kedoshim mem yidden are holy v'ein mishamshim mitisayim bayem, and they don't have marital relations by day. And says the Gemara, but Ha'amar Rave, but Rave said b'bayis awful mutter. In a dark house, it is allowed. So therefore, we could explain why it's said over here in the Braisa of Shabbos. Although the Rishonim question this pshat in the Gemara, there's different pshat in this Gemara, because from Rab Shimon Gamliel, it seemed like it's an obligation. He said Friday night and Shabbos day. It seems like it's an obligation. So even if we're saying that it's allowed, but it's only allowed b'shas adchak, not if it's not necessary. So why does it say here that it's a chiyuv? The Mishnah then said, V'im haisa menika. If the wife is nursing the children, so you have to give her more food. So Darash Rabula Darshan, Rabula Rabba that is, Apischa de Beinesiya, at the door of the Nasi, and he said, based on our Mishnah as follows. Even though we said, a person doesn't have an obligation to feed his daughters, his sons, when they're young. If you remember, we had a whole sugi in the Gemara about this. Is a person obligated to serve his children, to feed his children or not? The whole thing over there, we force him, we don't force him. But so even if you're going to say that you're not obligated, avozan kitani kitanim. But if the children are very young, you do have to feed them. Ad kama, and what does it mean, very young? Ad ben sheish, to the age of 6 years old, you have to feed your children. And we see this with Ravasi, like what Ravasi said. Ravasi said, Cotton ben sheish, a child that's up to the age of 6, Yaitze be'erev imay. So if the mother made an erev, what we're talking about over here is an erev tchumen, which is to be allowed to carry, or not to carry, to walk to a certain distance outside of the tchum Shabbos. So you place food there in that a certain direction, and the mother could walk over there, so the child could walk with her. So Rashi says what we're talking about over here is the father placed the erev on, let's say, the south. The mother placed the erev on the north. With who is the child allowed to walk? If you make an erev on one side, you can't walk to the other direction. So which direction is the child allowed to go to? So the child that's being fed together with the mother can go to the side where the mother made the erev. As he says over here, what's the reason? The Gemara itself does not explain it. Rashi explains this. But now the Gemara says how we can see this from our Mishnah. From how do I know that you have to feed the children when they're so young? Because it says in the Mishnah, if the mother is nursing the babies, so she has to work less, and we add also to the food that we have to feed her because she has to nurse the babies. So my time, don't you think the reason is mishom the boil mechel ba'ada? It's not only when she's nursing the babies, but also when she feeds the children. When they're so young that she's still feeding them, the children, so you have to give her extra food, not just for herself, but also for the children that are eating together with her. So from here we see that the children at a young age that are eating together with the mother, and that's why they can go to the side of the Eidov, where the mother placed the Eidov, you have to give her extra food for the children. Says the Gemara, how do you know how that's the pshat in the Mishnah? V'dilma, maybe the pshat in the Mishnah is mishum dechaylehi. Maybe because a nursing mother, she's weak, she's sick, and therefore she needs extra food for herself to be strong, not necessarily for feeding the children. Says the Gemara, but im kain lisni im haisa. If that was the issue, so the Mishnah should have just said that a woman that's not well, you have to give her extra food. Why is the Mishnah specifically saying that she's nursing the children, which would mean that it's not just for her purpose, but it's also for the baby that she's nursing or for the children that she's feeding? Says the Gemara, but no, it's not a raya from a Mishnah. Maybe this is what the Mishnah is telling you. That usually a mother that nurses babies is weaker, she's sicker, and therefore you have to give her extra food. So itmer, or the Bachir adds the itmer. Mahu Maisif law, what is it that he adds her? What is it that he gives her? Amar Avishua ben Levi, Maisifin law, you have to give for the wife that's nursing the babies, yayin, you give her wine. Shahayayin, yafalachalov, because a woman that drinks wine, the quality of the milk will be better quality to nurse her babies. Hadran Allah Chafalpi, this is the conclusion of the 5th Perek of Masech Kesubos. Let's begin the next Perek, the next Mishnah. This is continuing the halachas of the obligations, the arrangement between the husband and wife. So before we spoke about the work of a woman, the work of her income that goes to the husband. So the Mishnah says the mitziyah, a object that a woman finds, or maisi yedel, her income, lebaila, goes to her husband. V'yirushasa, and also if she inherits, if she gets some kind of inheritance. So he eats from the fruits of this property in her lifetime, and then after she passes away, the husband inherits it. If she was humiliated, someone was paigimer, this is going back to what we learned earlier in the Masechta, if someone was mizana with her, and now the person has to pay her for the baishas and the pagam, that he took down her value, and he humiliated her, shalom, that payment goes to her. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says, Bizman shebeseiser, if her humiliation or that he was paigimer and the damage is something that's in a concealed place, so la shnei chalakim, she gets 2/3 of the payment, and v'lo yechad, and the husband gets 1/3 of the payment. It was man shebegali. If this is something that's open for everybody to see, it's exposed, so then the husband has a very big embarrassment in this. So lo shnei chalakim, he gets 2/3, and v'lo yechad, and she that is gets 1/3. Shaloi yinasin miyad, that what belongs to him should be given to him right away. V'shalah yulakich ben karka, and what's being paid to her, you should buy with it a property. And v'hu eichel peiris, and from this property, the husband eats from the fruits of this property in her lifetime, and then later he yashens her if he passes away. Zok the Gemara, my kamashmalan. What's the chiddush that this Mishnah is saying regarding the things that a wife has, she finds, and see all the different things the Mishnah said here, and we said it goes to the husband. What's the chiddush in this Mishnah? Tanina, we already learned this before in the Mishnah and the previous Perek. It says there, Ha'av Zakka bebitoi, the father gets from his daughter b'kidushel, kidushni kibi mekadesher, the kesef, shtar, bebiyah, and any of the 3 ways that he's mekadesher. The father gets the kesef, he gets the shtar, or he has the right to give her over to biyah. Zakka b'mitziyasa, the father gets from mitziyah, b'maisiyah there, her income b'faras nedereh, he's the one that nullifies her vows. Mekabel es gita, when she gets divorced, the father gets the get, ve'en oichel peiris b'chayel, and he does not eat the fruits in her lifetime, the fruits of her properties. Nisis, but if she gets married, yes, so the husband also gets all of this, and yes, at all of a baal, the husband gets even more, shoeichel peiris b'chayel, that the fruits of her properties he eats in her lifetime. So the Mishnah over there already said all these halachas about what the father gets from his daughter, and then it says that the husband also gets all of this, and he actually gets even more, that he eats from the fruits of her property. So our Mishnah is not saying anything new. And says the Gemara, Baishta upagama itzrachalei. The chiddush of our Mishnah is regarding the detail of baishas and pagam. When someone pays, when he embarrassed her, he brought her value down. So who gets that payment? Over here, our Mishnah brought a machlekes. Plukted that Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida and Rabbanan. This argument between Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida and the Rabbanan, who gets it? So that's a new machlekes. That's the main focus of what our Mishnah is coming to teach us here.